So I'm going to talk about brows today. There are a few different techniques that I've been hearing about recently. Everybody knows the huge trend that's going on right now of super bushy, thick, full model brows that everybody wants to achieve. And I struggle a little bit with that because even though I have a lot of hair, it's very fine. So I don't have those thick brow hairs that will stand up on their own. I also know that the trend right now is for very straight brows that will lift your eye because everybody wants that like makeup facelift, really snatched eyes. So my eyebrow shape doesn't really lend itself to this trend because rather than being more straight in its shape, I have a very pronounced arch. I've tried to pluck my brows to where they don't really follow the natural arch as much, but my brow hairs will naturally go up to the arch here and then very much go down. So I've tried to pluck my brows to where they end up here rather than the natural progression of the brows, which will go down there. And that's because you really don't want your brows to be going downward. That'll definitely make your face look a little bit, it'll draw the eye down, and not in an elongating, flattering way. But I think as people are learning more about kind of the science behind cosmetology, they're realizing that your brow hairs can make a huge difference, even if it's just moving them by a centimeter or so. So even though the natural line of my brow hair is to go downward like that, I have been trying lately to kind of get it to go more straight across. So today I'll be going through how I've been trying to achieve that look and staying away from the trend that's kind of been popular since maybe 2016, 2017 of starting hair and drawing in your brows really, really kind of thick and in one line, and then brushing through the hairs here. That's kind of the general trend that I had been following when I used to do my makeup. And then for a couple of years, as you guys know, I stopped wearing makeup or wore it really minimally or only for special occasions. And then recently I've been trying to get up to date on the trends again. So I'll go ahead and hop into it. So to start with, I will go in with the Precision Brow Pencil from Benefit Cosmetics. They're really well known for their brow line. And the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Pomade is another really popular makeup artist staple that I've heard a lot about and have had recommended to me by friends. I have not tried that one because I have not had great successes with pomades in my brows before, so I have to learn a little bit more of the technique before I go in with those products for you guys. So I'm starting with a pencil, and I'll start with the spoolie end and just comb through my brow hairs, trying to lift them up as much as possible. And I just finished filming a primer video. Similarly to Let's Talk About Brows, I wanted to talk about primer with you guys. And as I'm looking in the mirror, I can see the kind of blurring, smoothing effect from the Laura Mercier Blurring Pure Canvas Primer, and I'm really pleased with that. So after I spoolie through, I'm gonna go in with the other side of the pencil, which is a really fine tip. And I'll show you guys actually a comparison between that one and the L'Oreal pencil that I use on a regular basis, so that you can see the difference in the tip. So there is actually a difference. That the tip on the Benefit side is actually thinner, but for a good drugstore one, I have really liked this L'Oreal product, and it's called the Brow Stylist Definer. Another thing in Let's Talk About Brows is I think I've chronically been using the wrong brow color in all of my products, and this is because I was trying to match my color to my natural hair, and what you want to do is actually go at least a shade lighter so that your brows don't look artificially thick, because naturally your skin is going to show through your brow hairs, and that's going to make the overall effect look lighter than if you were to just take the hairs individually and look at the color. So for me, I have naturally nearly black hair, and so my brow hairs themselves are dark, and I was matching to that color instead of going a couple shades lighter. So as I learn about my brows, that's one thing that I'm finding. So one thing that was a trend that is no longer in style is defining both the bottom and the top of your brows. People were doing this for a really long time, but I think that as people are going for a more natural look where you can see the individual brow hairs and you don't want that kind of Sharpie look, it was never popular to have a Sharpie look. I mean, not in the last decade anyway. But some people who are able to achieve the more defined brow hair look where they actually have some lamination that's been done, or maybe they have more sparse hairs and so they're able to do like a soap brow technique or a glue technique where they can really get those individual hairs to lay against the skin. I don't have that right now. I could go somewhere professionally to get that done, but it's really hard to achieve on my own and I don't want to overpluck my brows trying to do that. So I'm still using a pencil to line underneath to give it a little bit fuller of an effect, to fill in some gaps and define the bottom of my brow. This will give it a little bit more shape and, like I said, fill in sparser regions, but I'm ideally going more carefully where I'm trying to mimic individual brow hairs rather than just drawing on a straight line. This is pretty difficult for me and I am definitely still learning, so any tips or products that you guys recommend, I would be happy to get those recommendations. So now that I have gone in with my pencil to fill in the sparser areas, I'm going to go in with the NYX Brow Glue. And this is a really popular product. I really like it. I don't think it's as strong as something like Soap Brows, which I'll be attempting on video soon. But I think that this is really nice for defining the brow hairs a little bit more and getting them to stay in place. So for the front, where my brow hairs are more sparse and where they tend to lie very flat when I don't want them to, I'm just rotating the spoolie and going in an upward motion rather than diagonal or horizontal. And then I'll move into more of a diagonal angle for the remaining brow hairs here. And you guys can see I have really long brow hairs. I'm not gonna leave them like this. I am growing my brow hairs out right now so that I can go to a salon and get them shaped. So things are a little rough in the brow region right now, but we're working with it. So what you want to do after you've kind of brushed up to give them that thickness and fullness and define the hairs a little bit more. Whew, she looking scary. Then you want to start to go up and swoop a little bit to the side. And you might feel as if that kind of defeats the purpose, but I have heard and I have found that you still get that individualized, defined look that you want to see with fuller brows following this technique, that it doesn't completely undo all the effort that you just put in with the brow glue. And since I went in with the Benefit pencil earlier, I just want to mention something about the Benefit products. So I do have the clear setting gel, but it isn't as good as it is as a setting gel. It doesn't really achieve the same glue effect as the NYX Brow Glue. So I would really recommend this, especially for the price. It's 100% worth it. I can't recall, but I know it was under $10. So right away you can see the difference between this brow and this brow. And both have pencil, but one of them is just a lot thicker, kind of looking a little Frida Kahlo. But you know, she rocked it. Maybe I can too. So this might be a bit much for me, but I'm gonna leave it because, hey, maybe I'll end up liking how it looks, or if nothing else, at least for the sake of this video, showing that technique of using the brow glue. Okay, so that's what it looks like with just the pencil and the brow glue. I'm taking my fingers and just wiping off any of the excess glue that kind of made its way above my brow hairs. And then I'm gonna go in with the Benefit Tinted Brow Pomade, just for a little bit of more of a full effect. So the glue is partially dried, so it lends itself to a little bit of flexibility as you're running through with the pomade spoolie. But you want it to be at least partially dried, and kind of that thicker consistency before you do this, because otherwise you're just gonna end up mixing the pomade and the clear gel and kind of undoing the work of defining your brow hairs that you did before. So I go in with a much lighter hand towards the inner part of my brow, where it goes towards the space between my brows and the space between my two brows. And then I go in with a much heavier hand, although still not too heavy-handed for this space, and especially on my left brow over here. This tends to get really sparse right in there, so I tend to actually take the tip of the spoolie and go in a little bit more like that. So this is the finished brow look. Looks a little bit much right now without any of the rest of my face or eyes done, but I will go and do the rest of my face either off camera or in another tutorial as I go through talking about some products. And then I'll hop back here for the finished look. Okay, so this is my finished look. I know the whole face overall is pretty basic, but this is my favorite kind of makeup look. Pretty light, dewy, natural, but a little bit enhanced. So I know today I wanted to talk about primer and brows and concealer, and I hope you guys get the chance to watch all of those videos, or just whichever one you're interested in. So here at the end of it, you know, I'm really happy with how my brows turned out. The hairs don't look too defined, so I'm still working on how to achieve that model brow look, although maybe that's just not in the stars for me. For the primer, I used the Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Primer in the blurring option, and it's a silicone-free water-based primer, and I knew that that would work well with the tinted moisturizer that I used, but what I did as a preliminary step, I think kind of ruined the finish. I used this L'Oreal True Match Glotion, Illuminating Glowy Lotion, I guess. That's a natural glow enhancer, and this is in the shade Medium Glow. So I actually really like this product, and I've worn it on its own without, you know, any kind of foundation or tinted moisturizer. And I really like the kind of luminous glow, but also a little bit of color that it gives you. It's kind of if you were to mix a tinted moisturizer and a highlighter. So I really like it, but I put that on directly after my primer had dried down, and then I put my tinted moisturizer on over it, and I definitely got some of that cakiness and some flaking. So I know now to just go in with the tinted moisturizer and test out the primer that way, that would be the best way to compare the products, rather than just try to throw in another one that maybe isn't compatible with a water-based primer. I'm not sure. And then the video on the concealer, I used the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, which is kind of a dupe for the Too Faced Born This Way, I believe. As far as concealers go, I actually don't really have any quarrels with it, but I still have that creasing and that dryness. So I won't want to say hugely disappointed, but you know, my hopes definitely weren't upheld. So I think for the price and for most people's skin type, it's probably going to be excellent. I think that the tube is only $6. And that the non-hydrating one is kind of a dupe for the Tarte Shape Tape. So I think it's definitely worth a try, probably worth your money, even if it doesn't dazzle you. I probably will keep mine, or at least go back to color match with somebody else's help and try to get the right shade for me. But in my everyday routine, I don't use concealer, and I'm not sure if this has convinced me to start. So Anyway, this is the finished look. I'm actually pretty happy with it, but again, this lighting is not the best, so we'll see how it looks in daylight. But thank you guys as always for watching, and if you like this format of Let's Talk About Blank, definitely let me know any products that you're interested in, or any techniques you're interested in, shades, formulas, anything like that, because I really like looking into this stuff, and there's a lot that I need to learn, so we can learn together. Again, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.